Ladies and gentlemen, it's crunch time. I'm Jefferson Penrod, your host. The clock is running, so let's go to work. This is my show. I want to start with this. Let's talk about BYU versus Colorado on Saturday night. BYU got it done in a gritty win on the road against the Buffaloes, winning 24-21. In the postgame interview, head coach Kalani Sitake mentioned adversity that BYU had to overcome, and this really was the first adversity that BYU had to overcome all season. Three pretty easy, controlling wins in the first three games of the season, but this game was very different. BYU got down to a quick 14-0 deficit with allowing a touchdown on the first drive, then punting immediately, and then allowing a touchdown. It was the first time that BYU trailed all season and pretty quickly found themselves in a two-score hole. Caden Salter torched the Cougars early with his legs. BYU didn't lead until the second half, by the way. They went down into halftime 14-10 and then scored on the ensuing opening drive of the second half. But Caden Salter played very well early. Those first couple drives, those scripted plays that Pat Shurmur had drawn up, worked very well. But once BYU was able to counter those game plan options and those scripted plays kind of went away, Colorado didn't really have anything to move the ball other than that first quarter only totaling 7 points. Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker did very well in the defense, the two-headed linebacker monster for the Cougars. 6 total tackles for Jack Kelly with the sack and 2 tackles for loss. Isaiah Glasker with 4 total tackles, 1 sack and tackle for loss, and the game-stealing interception on Colorado's final drive. But they also played very well in quarterback spy roles. That was an adjustment that Jay Hill made after those first couple drives to put a spy on Salter, and it worked very well. And Caden Salter wasn't able to do very much for the rest of the game. Bear Bachmeier played, I believe, his best game of the season so far. 19 of 27 with 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Bear yet to have a turnover on the season. Also had 98 yards rushing, was BYU's leading rusher. This is the first time all season that BYU needed Bear to make plays, and he delivered. I think of that 3rd and 16 scramble that he had for a first down in the fourth quarter. Just made very, very timely plays, timely throws. When BYU needed him to. The one thing that's impressed me the most about Bear is his patience in the runner, as well as in the pocket. Often you think of these dual threat guys that have, these dual threat guys want to, the first sign of trouble, they take off. We saw that with Caden Salter a lot, that as soon as BYU's pressure would get to him, he would try and take off and run or scramble, but Bear has stayed very solid in the pocket, and when he runs with authority, but also runs with patience, trying to find the holes. Sometimes was a little too patient and it didn't really work out, but a lot of times finding the holes that worked for him and making plays when he needed to. BYU controlled the second, third, and fourth quarters. Once Colorado got up to that 14-0 lead, that was kind of all that they had, and made plays when they needed to in all three phases. Especially think of that special teams right at the end of the game. Kalani Sitake electing to punt, only up 3. That punt by Sam Vanderhaar pinned at the 5-yard line, and Colorado, with a 95-yard drive ahead of them, didn't really have anything going. BYU forced the turnover. So very, very good win for BYU. We'll see how they do this week on Friday, against West Virginia. Let's go to this. In the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens fall to 1-3 on the season. Baltimore lost to the Chiefs 37-20 at Arrowhead Stadium yesterday. Kansas City took control of this game in the second quarter by scoring 17, and they really never looked back after that. Baltimore was 3 of 10 on third down and only 1 of 4 on fourth down. Lamar Jackson struggled a little bit. It was 14 of 20 for 147 yards with a touchdown and an interception, 6 carries for 48 yards. But he ended up leaving in the third quarter with a hamstring injury, and that is really the question for the Ravens. They now are pretty plagued with injuries besides Lamar Jackson, and if he misses any time, that's very detrimental to them. The Ravens are now down 7 of their 11 defensive starters as well. And so, yes, the Ravens' 3 losses have been against the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs, 3 teams that you could argue are some of the top contenders to win the Super Bowl this year. But something just feels off compared to the other teams from Baltimore that we've seen in the past. Remember, the Chiefs and to some extent the Lions themselves have looked sluggish this year, and yet against the Ravens look sharp. So especially if Lamar Jackson misses significant time and if these defensive starters can't get back soon, Baltimore may be in trouble this season. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a timeout. We'll be right back. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to check out the Game 7 podcast, where I, along with my co-host Jackson Jones, look at the biggest stories and make predictions for the biggest games each week. All right, we're back here with Crunch Time. We're going to go ahead and do our 2-minute drill. The clock will run in 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about this first. Oregon versus Penn State. Very highly anticipated game. The whiteout, college game day, everything that you could ask for. Primetime game. They finally did the right thing and put the whiteout at night. But James Franklin loses the big one again. He falls to 4-21 against top 10 teams in his time at Penn State. Drew Aller, Penn State's quarterback, struggled, only completed 56% of his passes and had that game-sealing interception in double overtime. Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback, looked good. And Oregon, the key for them, they looked very, very confident as a young team in the spotlight, hostile environment against a very experienced Penn State team. And for Penn State, their season isn't over by any means, but right now you look, obviously they had their first 3 wins, but those 3 wins aren't impressive. And then your one test that you've had so far to kind of drop the ball a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how Penn State responds. I think that they still have a chance to win the Big Ten and make the playoff, but will they be able to be a championship contender? I don't think so. Let's go to this. The Cowboys and Packers played last night on Sunday Night Football. It was the first tie this season, 40-40, second highest tie in NFL history, by the way. A back and forth fourth quarter made that exciting, and then obviously the underwhelming ending with the tie. It was unexpected for me that Dallas could compete with Green Bay. We'll see how both of these teams do coming down the stretch. And last thing, the MLB playoffs are here. The wild card starts on Tuesday. It was an exciting stretch for the end of the MLB regular season. Playoff spots were in question until the last game, game 162. A lot of exciting times. By the way, the Phillies are the World Series favorites at plus 425, but those are the longest odds for a World Series favorite in MLB history. It'll be exciting to see who wins the Fall Classic. And with that, the 2-minute drill comes to an end. We made it this time. First time. Hopefully, we don't go over in the future. Anyway, that will do it for this inaugural episode of Crunch Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow the show on Instagram at Crunch Time with Jeffy. Subscribe to the YouTube and follow if you're listening on podcast. We'll be right back here on Wednesday.